Good evening. This is Grandmaster Magesh Panchanathan. Yep, Firoja is on a great run. Number 4 in the world. And he's actually only within 2 points from Caruana, if I remember right, yeah? So still more to go. Well, tomorrow is going to be big. Fabi's playing white against him, so... Wait, 6 points already? I thought he was only like about 2 or 3 points behind Fabiano. No. Yeah, something like that. Something like that. So, well, I think his live rating is not 2799. All right. Anyways, let's go ahead and get started. So what I'm going to focus on today, today we want to study, work on calculation. So, and I've been doing this the last few weeks with my students, and I've been, I like what's going on. I thought this is probably a good lesson for all of us here too. So the main idea is this. One of the biggest difficulties in calculation that I've noticed, at least, is that not that you don't find an exact answer or have a finish or get the exact evaluation. Sometimes it's very difficult to even identify what's going on, what's critical. So I thought we can focus on that a little bit more while we're doing our calculation. Because if you're spending 10-15 minutes as a player, it's important that you understand where those 10-15 minutes are going, right? So, and there is no one else who can help you in this except yourself. You want to do the classroom? We can do that too. But I think, should we do the classroom? I think the board is all set up, guys. So I think we will, maybe I can do some questions. So Koshe, can I create the classroom? I think someone is asking, I think Raya is asking about it. Sure. It should take me only a second. In the meantime, you guys can look at this position. So tell me what is going on. Okay. So, and as always, I like to talk about the position before anything else, we do in terms of plan or calculation. I always like to look through the position itself, right? Like basic observations. There's nothing to do with any moves or anything. It's simply what's going on. What do you guys have? Type it in chat. Tell me what are the basic things that you see in this position that you think is important. White is attacking, says Aradhya. Fair enough. Okay, that should do it. All right. Rook versus bishop plus knight. Rook and h8 is not good. A little bit of calculation is going on. If you're typing any moves or anything, don't type it in general chat. Always type it in private chat. I might have sent it to just Aradhya, my bad. Let me send it to everyone else. All right. The password is 123456. This should kind of do it. All right. You can all join this board. Click on the link and the password. You can put in your own name. The password is 123456. I think most of you have already used this, so you might have an idea about this. Okay, so what I'm going to do, like I told you, is that I'm, of course, interested in trying to see who can come up with the perfect objective evaluation of this position. But I'm also interested to see if you're looking in the right place. As simple as that, right? So today we'll try to do 2 or 3 positions. And in each one, we want to see if you can really get to the critical point, right? So once you have that critical point, then I'm already happy. If you didn't solve the position after that, you're still in the right track. But today is a good place for you all to measure how you're calculating. So what I'll do is I'll give you a time, 10 to 15 minutes. And at the end of 3 or 4 minutes, we'll see where we are. At the end of 6 or 7 minutes, we'll see where we are, right? All right, so white has rook for 2 minor pieces. Black king is under major attack. White pieces are extremely active. You can see the queen, two rooks, and bishop. Every single piece is doing really, really well. So black is in danger of probably immediately losing, could be something tactical, and the game could be over. Yeah. Or of course, if you go into an endgame, anything is possible because black's pawn structure is slightly worse. So for the rook and two minor pieces, that's a different story. But for now, the king would be the main focus. Yeah. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start a timer. We'll set 10 minutes for this position. So I will say at the end of 3 minutes, I would like all of you to give me what you're actually calculating. And again, do only private chat. I'm not going to ask the question on the board yet. I'll ask maybe towards the end. At the end of 10 minutes, I'll ask that. Okay, Aryan. Password is 123456. You mean after that? Okay. I mean to say it's a sequence of variation. Okay. All right, guys. It's about 3 minutes. I would like all of you to first put in this, right? What are the candidate moves you saw in this position? Now, if you think you got the whole variation, that's fine. I still want to know what candidate moves you looked at. Remember this is more about the calculation process than the calculation result. So we are going to be talking about the process more. So I want to know what candidate moves did you all consider? So Hanchi's given me 2. So Ryo, those are the 2 candidate moves. Okay. Eric. Okay. And all right. So basically, yes, you did. You did miss that point, but let's go. So, okay. So rook takes d7 has been given as one of the main moves. Bishop f5 has been given one of the main moves. And there is queen a7 that I'm given. Rook takes b5 is given. So unfortunately, those who gave rook takes b5 or rook takes a6, or basically you're just hanging your queen. But that's actually a very strange thing. In this particular position, somehow, I don't know how, but a lot of my students have missed that this queen is hanging. And funnily, when I looked at this position first, I also did not pay attention to the fact that my queen was hanging. So I don't know if it's a weird piece setting or whatever that is. It seems to be a very interesting, could be like a nice case study to see why in this particular situation, lots of players tend to forget that the queen is hanging. I don't know. Maybe this pin is making you believe that the knight is also kind of pinned. I don't know. But so the queen is hanging. That leaves me with 3 candidate moves. I think you should have considered this, and this. Obviously, rook d7 and bishop f5 are more forcing. Yeah. Now, I want a comparison between these 2 more, because I think queen a7 can be rejected. And if you didn't, you have to think about this. I think after queen a7, bishop takes d6, I don't see anything major, because the bishop can block, knight can block, and the king can go to d8. Okay, there's something maybe still, the king is still weak. You can probably try to attack me, but it does not feel right. And that's important because you have to use your intuition to select the variations. So now I need a full evaluation. Now, some of you have given me one of it. Even if the first one or the one that you saw is completely winning and that's what you believe, I would like to know exactly what the evaluation is for both eventually. Okay. Having said that, if you have not evaluated this completely, pick one first. So in a practical play, it's very important what you pick, right? Because if you're going to spend the next 5 to 10 minutes on this particular move, if you pick the right move, then there it is. You have the answer. If you pick the wrong move, and at the end of like 7 minutes or so, you figure out this is not working out for me, and you want to switch, it does not help your calculation. Okay. So you're going to pick one of the 2 moves, of course, and you're going to give me a variation in that. And once it's done, I also want the other variation. So I want to see an exact comparison between the 2. So Ryo, did you give me a variation for bishop f5? I know you gave me a variation for rook d7. Okay, Roger, I see you wanted to play this move. Okay. Cipher, that's interesting. How would you proceed after that? So Ryan Min, I want you to try to make that question mark a little bit more into a serious answer. I know you have a move. What do you think Black would play after that? So by the way, we're about 7 minutes into this calculation. So in about next 3 minutes, we want to wrap it up. So I think this position is about 10 minutes, maybe 15 minutes tops, but hopefully we can make sure all of us can wrap it up within that. Yep, you always have to watch out for queen. There is no queen e1. You mean queen d1 check, yeah? At some point, particularly if you sacrifice your rook, you have to watch out for queen d1 check as well. Possibly, that's one of the things. Okay, so we're about 8 minutes into this calculation. So what I will do is I will ask a question, because I know you guys wanted to be this, have this board to definitely try to make an answer. Now, let's start with whatever the best continuation should be, right? So I'm going to ask the question. So whatever you think is the best continuation, that's what I want you to play in this one. All right. And let's say I'll give you 2 minutes to put this answer in. All right, so the question popped up. You have 2 minutes. You can always add time if you need, but just make sure you think about this and put in your answer. It's one of the moves, bishop f5 or rook d7. Question is supposed to pop up in the board. I don't know if you're not there. Let me send the link again, Zoe. We're doing this classroom where you're making the moves. So Owen, interestingly, I think your answer might work. I didn't even think about it. I don't know why you would. I mean, when there is a bet, like the other move seems a little better, so I don't see why you should play that. But now I'm looking at it, it might actually work, right? It technically might work. Other than the fact that he might be dropping like a pawn somewhere, but other than that, it might still work. So a lot of you are going with a different variation. We're going to talk about what variation works and what doesn't work, of course, in a minute. We have about 30 seconds left. Okay, Roger and Ryo have it. Correct, Owen. The other one is much simpler, so you should definitely go with that. So, all right, looks like the timer is out. So I'm going to start by first saying, okay, between rook d7 and bishop f5, I know a lot of you have played bishop f5 as your first move. And some of you played rook d7, bishop d7, and then either played queen e7 or queen a7 as your second move. Now, I'm going to do this comparison of each and every variation, and we're going to see what makes the most sense, right? So let's start with this one first, the actual answer, which is kind of easy to see once you see the whole sequence. It's very forcing. After rook d7, I cannot take with the queen or king because bishop f5 check instantly wins, so you can eliminate that very quickly. So very early, you should have reached this position in your head to say, do I have anything here? Again, I think there are 2 or 3 candidate moves here that you can look for. This one is one, which I think some of you started calculating very early. Rook c4 is another one. There is also queen a7. I'm actually not so sure about queen e7, even though it looks very interesting because I see you're trying to play bishop b7 check. I probably can do something like bishop b5 because there's no bishop f5 check. And I have queen d1 check after that. So it just doesn't look that threatening, basically. Yeah, queen here. Queen a7, on the other hand, is a little bit more of a direct threat because queen a8 is a checkmate. Now, any move that threatens a checkmate has to be in the list of your candidate moves. Okay, I don't care what you start calculating. It's always important to see the other moves. Now, if you did not see the other moves, I would still say you have to work a little bit on your calculation, because sometimes it might just be pure luck that you found the right intuitive move and then you went on with it, you calculated. Fantastic, you're very efficient. But remember this, the best way to calculate, according to me, is that you have at least the main candidate moves in the position sorted out in your head. And then you picked one move which you think intuitively is going to work best for you. That seems to me like the most informed decision. And this is what I think is the best practice, right? But we tend to run with one move a lot. A lot of times, including me, we see one move, we calculate that one move in depth. That's all, right? And that usually brings calculation problems. So a quick scan should always be there in the position. Now you can see that rook b7, queen f4 saves the bishop, and I don't see any clear follow-up. And after queen a7, king d8 probably is the main move. Where is the clear follow-up? Again, you can attack, but I don't see a very, very clear follow, because, for example, if you play queen a8 check and I block, if you play another check, maybe I don't know, rook d4 check, I go king e7. And again, it's not super obvious to me. There might be still interesting things, because next move, again, I can play queen f4 to defend c7 if you try to play something like queen a7. So there is more to calculate to this, but it's not too clear. So typically what I would do in my head is, if I see queen a7, king d8, that'll be my quick scan where I'll pause to say, okay, nothing concrete yet, I'll come back. So queen here, king here. Okay, I can play check, rook d4 check. Okay, king e7. Okay, it still looks interesting to me. I'm not going to conclude saying it's bad, but I'm going to come back because it didn't win the game for me. I know that much, right? Now, rook c4 wins the game for you. And that's why you need to pick this one. It's easier to pick this one because after rook c4, I literally have nothing but queen takes f4. My only move is giving up my queen. Easier to calculate, right? Austin, we're doing calculation, and most importantly, we're doing the process of calculation rather than just finding the best moves. We're talking about how to identify critical variations and how to make sure that we are in the right track when we're calculating. So rook c4, queen here, bishop b7 check. And as you can see, this is pretty straightforward because the last move is all you have to see here. That is queen b4. So by the way, there is queen d4 also seems to work because I could pick up the piece, but I think, and I could just take that extra pawn. You didn't need to give that pawn if you play queen b4 check. And white wins, yeah? So this is, by the way, Shirov against Ahmed Ali in the Grand Swiss. Shirov is doing really well, as you all are probably following it. And he had a really nice finish. He had actually a very interesting sacrifice with knight d5 early on. And is white really winning? Are you asking in the last position, Roger? Are you asking, let's say, in this position? Let's say the queen king move somewhere and take. Okay, so yes, this is objectively winning, and you should evaluate this quite easily. There are two reasons why I think white is easily winning. One, of course, is the king, right? This should tell you that white is winning because you are going to pick up more pawns. It's almost impossible for black to defend. You're going to play some checks. Right here, I can see a multiple set of things, but let's say the king moved to a7. Again, I'm threatening this, I'm threatening this. I don't really see a good place for the king to move where I would not have more threats. So one, like I said, is you're going to lose pawn. The second thing is I see my pass pawn, right? I'm just going to push this pawn up at some point. My king is going to walk in, and this is objectively winning. Maybe black can put some practical resistance, but for me to do that, the king has to be in a good place. And black doesn't have a safe king, so I would say this is winning. So that's the evaluation part. If you are wondering if this was winning, that means you have to work a little bit on your evaluation and fine-tune it to see how you can get the conclusion next time in a better way. Now let's come back. A lot of you play bishop f5. Looks extremely, really, extremely fine. Because I think one of the variations I saw was queen g2, another one was queen e2. And simply after rook takes b5, it seems to me like white is crushing. So I'm going to ask this also as a question. So what is it that black's main move? Some of you already gave it in chat and you figured it out, so good. But what is the most critical variation for black here? So I'll give only 60 seconds because you guys have already done this. What is the most critical move for black here? And if you don't have this right, that could be the answer to why your calculation was wrong. Austin May. I'm not so sure what that move is. I'm definitely not playing that. Oh, Aradhya, I see it. Mouse slip, unfortunate. Hanchi, that's correct. All right, time up. So it looks like some of you missed making the move. Try to make some moves, of course, at some point, even if it's wrong. You will get to see where your thinking is aligned. So queen e2, queen g2, like I said, it's just really not putting up the resistance. The real move, I would say, is this. Right? Now, how would you evaluate this? Can you all type in an evaluation in chat? What is your evaluation of this position? So white has white has a queen, black has 3 minor pieces. Eric, if you meant to play queen f5, then you got it right. That is a move. You also mouse flipped. I see you played queen takes f4. So Aryan, are you saying plus equals? Okay, equals or plus equals, something like that. Okay, unclear. White probably better, right? Alexander Wang 6 equals plus. White's winning. The deep blue is Kasparov game 6 match. Okay. Between equal and slightly better for white. I think this is equal because the 3 pieces will coordinate. All right. I'll tell you what, you're on the same board as me. When I first looked at this option, as queen takes f5 and bishop takes d6, my initial evaluation was a little unclear. I definitely like white. Again, the main reason is because the black king is very weak. So practically, I think white will win this one. Objectively, I felt like white, might be better, but not winning. This is exactly what I was initially looking. I didn't look at it in depth, but this is the rough evaluation I came up with. But turns out this is completely winning for white also. So this is plus minus separate, and you have an evaluation of like 0.3 or something like that, plus a 3 point, sorry, not 0.3, plus 3.0 or something like that. So white is objectively clearly winning in this position. But that is what a computer can tell you, not a human evaluation. So what I got from all of you here is more reasonable. I think black has 3 minor pieces, and I don't see an immediate way to win anything. Yeah, because you play rook d4, I go back. You play c4, I go. So you cannot play c4 because the rook is already hanging. Maybe you can play this and then play c4, but then bishop goes to c6. And like Roger pointed out, my pieces are coordinating. They're defending key things. I'm defending the f6 pawn. And, if my rook somehow gets into the game, I might be, black might have a dangerous attack too. Yes, Aradhya, the other line is much, much simpler, right? So the evaluation here is what you're comparing with the evaluation there. So this one looks a little unclear. What I've noticed in my experience is that this move skips your mind sometimes. Black is desperate. That is the only move that black can play. Every other move is losing. So you have to calculate queen f5. That sometimes doesn't happen. We slip that. And if you saw bishop f5 and you did not see queen f5, then you would play this. Makes a lot of sense because there's nothing that black can do, right? You will get, in fact, if I play queen e2, you'll get a better version of what happened in the game. Rook takes, queen takes, bishop d7. The same queen for rook and bishop, but I have an extra pawn compared to what was in the actual game. So you would definitely play bishop f5 if you did not see queen f5. And in this position, frankly, I cannot tell you which one would have been better to calculate first. I just don't know how I would have done. I mean, I don't remember exactly which move I looked at first, but I wouldn't be able to tell you clearly, listen, this is the logical move to calculate, because I think both moves are equally forcing, right? So we can't tell much about it. But the final conclusion is that you have to evaluate bishop f5, queen f5 variation, rook d7, bishop d7, rook c4 variation, compare that, and then you can make the decision. Hopefully you can do all of that in 10 minutes. Okay, let's move on. I am not sure if I gave you all this position, so I'm going to try this. Tell me if we did this. I don't think we did, but If I remember right, in our last class, we did a similar calculation training about Vishy Anand's game. Is that right? Am I right? Am I completely wrong? Oh, I am right. Okay, so then we didn't do this position. Very good. All right, we have the next position on board. What we're going to do is, again, I'm going to split this into 15 minutes. But before we do the 15 minutes, very quick, usual stuff. What is going on in the position? Who can tell me? D5 is an outpost. Far enough. Looks imbalanced. I'm not so sure if it's imbalanced. Why does it look imbalanced, Austin May? Because it seems to me that the material is even. What is imbalanced? Right, the conclusion or the evaluation we'll do it late in the end. First, I want to know what's going on, Which position is stronger? D5 is bad. The pawn structure and piece placement are imbalanced. Fair enough. That is true. Pawn structure is very asymmetrical. That is correct. Hanchi says black is better. Ryo says white's better. Weak pawn on D6 and black has the E file. Very good. Black is attacking, but the queens are about to be traded. Good point. Okay. All right. Good job. So let me just sum it up. These are the things I would pay attention to. The queens are about to get traded. That's a key aspect. There's only one open file in the board and black controls it. So that's definitely a positive for black. Black is dominating that. But there are two weak points that are immediately under trouble, both D6 and G7. Both are in an open file for white. So that does not look so great. The bishop on B4 looks a little misplaced. Not sure what the bishop is doing exactly on B4. Yeah. Because if these two are weaknesses and I have to play against it, it doesn't look so great. Now, the pawn on F4, pawn on H3, all of these things are isolated and can be a target, particularly because I have very, very active rooks. And if I can find a way to penetrate, these pawns will become weak. Yeah. Okay, very good. So now if you said white's better, that usually means that you're valuing one of the factors we talked about in terms of these pawns or the square or a bad bishop as a more important or relevant factor. If you say black is better, you're mostly saying it because of the rooks. Because I don't see other many advantages for black because the queen is getting traded. If the queen's not getting traded, it's a different story. We can say kingside attack. But the queen about to get off, I would say black. If you picked black, that means you think the rooks are very strong. Otherwise, you think the pawn's structure is strong, bad, or bishop is bad. So this is how your evaluation should be working. Yeah. All right. So obviously, I can play. I have to pretty much play queen takes d5. I mean, these two moves are possible, but don't really make much sense. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to split this up. There are two moves, and we are going to, again, look at both of them hand in hand, push our calculation as much as possible, and we are going to make decision. Okay. Right. Again, I don't want an evaluation completely like that yet. Just basic, basic understanding of that position to say this looks better, that looks better, but we don't have any conclusions. Remember that. It's very, very important that you do not conclude. If you give me conclusions, you have no option to learn or no option to figure out what is going on. So you're trying to explore what's going on in this position. If you give me saying this is what's going on already, there is nothing more to learn, right? So you have to keep an eye on that. All right. So there is queen takes d5, rook takes, or c takes. Which move do you think we should calculate for white first? I'll let you guys pick. So type in one move, c takes d5 or rook takes d5. Just according to your intuition, whatever is better for white, that's what you're going to pick. Okay. Ryan, very interesting. Ryan Min, very interesting point. Austin May, very interesting point. Okay, now I'm going to make this task a little bit more specific, right? I want you to write a move for black after each one of the response. So remember, this is the only way, even though you're deciding this intuitively, like I said, a quick scan is always required. So after queen takes d5, if rook takes d5, what will black play? If c takes d5, what will black play? So Austin, May, Rio, okay. Aryan, okay. Aradhya. You're changing your move, Sifar? Okay, Hanchi, nice. All right, so this is what I'm getting. Queen e6, I'm not a big fan of. Because see, right now, if you take, it becomes your turn. And you can do something. You play queen e6, and if you allow the trade, it becomes your opponent's turn. I don't see why I should give that, right? Queen e6, queen takes e6, and rook takes e6, and it just becomes white's turn. But as you play queen d5, it becomes your turn, right? Always keep the ball in your court. Right, now, so clearly what I'm getting is whether I take it with the pawn or with the rook. A lot of you simply want to play rook e2. Makes a lot of sense. I go to the 7th rank. White rook cannot go to d2 to control the 7th rank. And if I do win the 7th rank, bishop is in danger, pawn is in danger. So why not? Yeah. So whichever pawn captures or whichever piece captures on this, rook e2 looks like a strong move. Yeah. All right. Now that we have this in mind, I'm going to again ask everyone to pick one move. Which move do you like? cd5 or rook d5? Again, let's go. Chat. Oops, what did I open? My bad. Something random opened up. So Roger and Eric Leo, I think you guys switched. Aradhya is sticking to the same move, I think. Okay, Zoe, I think now you're looking for that move for white. Okay, makes sense. All right, guys. So the interesting point is I see a lot of you switching from rook d5 to cd5, which is what I was kind of curious to see. Yeah, because first thing is after queen takes d5, rook takes d5, there is a little bit of trouble with rook e2. After queen takes d5, pawn takes d5, after rook e2, you do see that there is rook dg1. So because of this, it seems to me that c takes d5 is a little bit safer because you will keep your 2nd rank. You won't lose the control of the 2nd rank. Yeah. But some of you have clearly pointed out that this pawn coming to d5 completely blocks the opens, like an outpost, gives up the pawn and everything. I mean, like gives up the weakness and all those things. So I'm going to start with rook d5. Okay. So I'm going to say queen d5, rook d5, and let's analyze this. We'll do both. So I'm going to ask a question, and I'll give you all about 5 minutes. Since we already spent some time thinking and taking some effort, so I'll do only 5 minutes for this. What should black play here? Well, actually, I'm going to go one step at a time because I think we do have black's move. Right? I'm going to ask what should white play. So because rook e2 is a move that pretty much all of you have given, and it looks very interesting. Yeah. Actually, I'm going to cut this into 2. Okay, let's do this. So what is black's main threat? This part you type it in chat. I'm not going to ask this question. So clearly, I'm not going to play rook takes e2, right? Fair enough. So obviously, I'm not going to allow rook takes g2 and rook e2 check. So what can white do? Give me some candidate moves for white. Okay, very good. I've gotten some candidate moves. Roger, very nice. I like all your candidate moves. Okay, so all right. I think most of you come with a very simple bishop c1 or bishop a1 candidate move. Fair enough. So I'm going to ask a simple question. Let's say I go bishop c1. What will black play? This part I will ask as a question. It's pretty straightforward, I think. But you have to still do a little bit of calculation. What is black's real play here? So let's give you 90 seconds. What does black want to do here? Oh, Eric, I think you had a mouse slip again. I know you're not going to drop your rook. So Kelsey, I think you got the idea, but you executed the wrong move order, unfortunately. All right, see, I think most of you got this. I like it. Some of you got the idea. Some of you had a mouse slip. All right, let's see if your last 10 seconds. All right, so let's see. Okay, so good job. The simple plan is this, yeah, rook takes g2, king takes g2, and rook e1. So now the problem is the bishop is trapped. So it's not that I'm winning any pawn or anything. I'm actually winning a full piece. a3 is the only real counter-attacking move, but I simply go bishop c3, and there is no way to save the bishop, and white is completely lost. Yeah. So now you realize that rook d5 is even more dangerous when you play the situation. Yeah. So, and there are two other options now. By the way, some of you found a3, not everyone did. In this position, there are three candidate moves: bishop c1, bishop a1, and a3. So clearly bishop c1 has been eliminated. Between these two, one of them has to give you some hope. One of them does. So let me ask a question again, and let's see who can find what exactly white can do. Yeah, I'll give you 3 minutes for this. So it's very critical because now one mistake here and there and you're going to lose the game. So you have to be very careful on what you're doing and what move order you're doing. Yes, it was. You kind of rejected that move. Turns out that's a move. I'll tell you. We'll talk about it in just a second. There's so much time left. There's 2 minutes left. You rushed into it. You didn't have to. Eric Feng, that move doesn't that just lose a bishop? Yeah, I feel like that's losing a bishop, right, Eric? Think about it. All right, we're down to the last minute of calculation. What exactly can white do here? Let's see if someone can get it. I don't think that's such a big problem because I think I'll have rook d1 in the end. And then probably the next move, king e4 or rook g1 after that. It still looks a little interesting, but I think white has counterplay. All right, time is up. So the real question is between these two moves, yeah? So the problem with a3 is that when I go into this endgame, you just give me a very convenient square. By the way, I have to probably go to g1 here because if I go to any of these squares, I take and then this pawn will hang with a check. And if we go to f1, when I take this pawn, there will be a possibility to play this check. So better to probably play this, takes, and takes here. Now it's actually possible to play this, but you know what? I'm going to take this. I'm going to take that. Very high chances that we'll end up in a rook and pawn game where I have these two against your one. So it's very dangerous for white. Yeah, that's probably losing. You don't want to get into that. So there is still some fight here, but we don't know exactly how much we can hold. And that's why it's important that you play bishop a1 first. Yeah. So the point is now if I do the same variation, by the way, to answer Raya's question, if I go check and take and don't go for the bishop, then you go rook d1 and you have a threat to play rook g1. And okay, I can try to do rook a3, but there's also king e4. There are a couple of options. So the reason why I also like king e4 is because if you take, Now I can actually take this. And then again, threatening to go here or threatening to go here. And now my bishop is also cleared up for a square on e5. So yes, a pawn could be dangerous, but I think g pawn falling and my king being active and the bishop in the diagonal, all of this together may be okay. So rook e1 is the dangerous idea where the bishop is in trouble, but now a3. So slight tweaking. The only difference is now when you take, your rook is not in very good position to take b3. And you have no other option but to take, because if you play bishop here, I could play bishop d4 and this pin will take care of it. There's also possibly b4, but bishop d4 looks good too because of the pin. Yeah. So essentially it comes down to this. Yeah. So in the game, this was actually from the US Championship, US Women's Championship. Irina Krush was playing white against Tateev. Unfortunately, Irina played bishop c1 and lost the game. But it's possible that there was time trouble. I didn't see the game live. But around this move, this is actually move 33. So I definitely expect shortage of time around this time. And then after bishop c1, game over. This was this year, Arad. Just the one that just ended a couple of weeks ago, or probably a week ago. So bishop a1 and a3, and the evaluation of this position is equal. But we have to compare it with cd5. So again, I'm going to play these next two moves very quickly. Now, I'm going to give you 2 minutes to calculate the most critical line for black. Okay. Again, there are some interesting moves. By the way, some of you tried rook f3 and other moves. Again, possible, but I think rook e2 is the most critical line. Let's do, or actually, I'll give you 90 seconds. What is the most critical line for black here that you should calculate? It's not even saying that this is winning or losing. To simply say this is the move you will be calculating. Do your candidate moves and see what exactly the main move you want to focus on. I think your second move, not that interesting. Sifir. I think you're dropping the g7 pawn, so might not be that interesting. Good. Your first move was right. All right. So most of you seem to have your main idea correct, which I like, because that means in a game, you are looking at the main move in the right way. So the most critical move is bishop d2. By the way, I think this is possible. Some of you are calculating bishop e1 possible. I actually, when I was calculating, I also found c4 to be interesting because cannot capture because of this move. And I'm immediately winning material. But at some point I saw this move and then I was annoyed and I didn't feel like I have enough. So bishop d2 is the main move, yeah? Now again, what is the main move for white? Actually, candidate moves. I'm not going to ask this question, just type in chat. What are the candidate moves for white here? Well, doesn't rook takes c2 just drop a pawn? I mean, you can play that endgame, it's possible. Okay, bishop c1 also just simply drops a pawn. It cannot be a candidate move, yeah? Simply bishop takes c1, followed by rook takes c2, rook e2, rook a2, and no compensation. King h1 also just drops a pawn. Rook takes g2, rook takes g2, and bishop. King g3, yes. And f5, yes. Okay, two candidate moves, king g3 and f5, right? Now, after king g3, frankly, I felt, when I was looking through this variation, I thought, okay, I can play this move and I can play this move. It's slightly better in game for black. Nothing great. But this move was the one that I was really worried about in my calculation. When I was thinking about it, this move, I was thinking, okay, if white plays f5, there is a threat to play f6. And if you play check, I go in, and I don't see a clear way to punish or create any problems for white. So that's the move that really stood out. And so bishop f4 check, let's say king goes here. Now I want you to tell me what could be the best move for black here. After bishop e3 instead of bishop f4. So after f5, bishop e3. Did we just miss that? No, I think bishop e3, I'll simply play rook f1. We didn't miss that. Yeah. What's the problem with rook f1? And you take, I take back. I don't see Anything important there, yeah? Probably still slightly better for black because the pawns are overextended to some sense. So when I play king f7 and if I get my bishop to f6, it'll be better. But okay, what should black play here? So when I initially calculated this idea kind of stumped me. I was not so sure. I don't think so because then rook takes rook, yeah, Aryan, which will not work. All right, let's see if anyone found this. Not an easy move to find this. I also was stumped in this idea. So, okay, timer is up. This is just simply too strong. Don't worry about it because when I initially calculated this, I just completely missed this. I looked at this position and I evaluated this to be roughly equal. So, but g5 and black is clearly better here. I mean, g5 is just brilliant because this is a very strong move. And the only reason that runs into problems is because of rook g7 and you simply stop it, right? So after take takes rook e3, I just simply, I'm running out of moves. So, I mean, there's even a beautiful finish here. I was initially going to ask that, but I'm running out of a little time. So I'm going to show it. Check king here, and then you finish off with rook check here. So now I cannot take it because of the mate, and you can simply take this bishop and then go rook c3. Now, basically you're trading all the rooks by force. Rook e4 is the only move. You play this check, take it, then play that check, take the other rook, and win the king and pawn game. It's almost impossible to defend against this rook e3 threat. Now, if this rook goes to e3, I think I can take and play rook g2, yeah? Yeah, it's not necessary. See, the thing is, when the king is so weak, I want to attack it with both my rooks. I don't want to do it with one rook. So to come back to this position, so the point is, it turns out after queen takes d5, rook takes d5 is actually a better move, only if you spot bishop a1 and a3. So this is very tricky. Sometimes you make a judgment to say, this is what I want to play, but you just have not seen any of it, any of the moves. Then you got lucky. So you should play rook d5 only if you saw bishop a1 and a3, and if you didn't, you got lucky. And you should play c takes d5 otherwise. Because rook takes d5, rook e2 is a very dangerous threat that black has, and you should avoid that with c takes d5. And in the c takes d5 variation, king g3 is better than f5. The good news is you don't have to figure it out beforehand. When bishop d2 is played at that point before playing f5, I think you should figure it out. If you try to calculate all the way from here, too difficult. But at that point, you can. Okay. Unfortunately, I have another class to run to, so I have to cut it right on time. Otherwise, I wanted to ask this last question as a question, but I think this is a good place for us to wrap. No, c4 doesn't work, Eric, because like we talked about, right? This is what I saw. After c4, I think this move is okay. Maybe there are other moves too. I just simply didn't think what I'm going to do after this. I saw something like this, and then I have to go here. And now bishop d4. So if you take this, I take here. And also, if you ever play this, I think this is okay. So I was not so sure how I can gain a huge advantage or play for a huge advantage. All right, guys. Thank you for coming to the class. I will see you all in one of the future days.